British Empire didn't die in 1945. It just moved across the Atlantic. And the way it happened involved a secret financial betrayal that changed your life today. For centuries, the sun never set on the British Empire, a vast network of colonies, trade routes, and military outposts that dictated global affairs. But after 2 devastating world wars, that empire was a shadow of its former self, financially crippled and politically exhausted. Yet, the vacuum wasn't filled by a multipolar world, but by a new, more subtle, and arguably more powerful global hegemon, the United States of America. America didn't conquer the world with armies in the traditional sense, but with dollars, diplomacy, and a network of influence that mirrored and often surpassed the British Empire. This isn't a story of overt conquest, but of a calculated, often ruthless transfer of power, disguised as global leadership and economic aid. What if I told you the world you live in, the currency in your pocket, and the global conflicts you see on the news are all echoes of a power shift that happened decades ago, orchestrated in smoke-filled rooms and behind closed doors? This is the story of how America inherited the mantle of global empire, not through direct colonial rule, but through a mastery of economic and military leverage. Imagine winning the greatest war in human history, only to find yourself utterly bankrupt. That was Britain's reality in 1945. Though victorious against Nazi Germany, the cost had been astronomical. The nation that once commanded a quarter of the world's landmass and population was now deeply in debt, owing billions to its allies, particularly the United States. The final blow came swiftly. Just days after Japan's surrender, the United States abruptly terminated the Lend-Lease program, a wartime initiative that had supplied Britain with vital resources. Winston Churchill famously remarked that the sudden cutoff was like pulling a rug from under them. This act, while economically justifiable for the US, left Britain in a desperate financial state, forcing them to seek massive loans and further eroding their global standing. The stage for the New World Order was set in July 1944, even as World War II raged on. Delegates from 44 allied nations gathered in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, to design the post-war international monetary system. This wasn't just an economic conference, it was a battle for global financial supremacy, fought between 2 intellectual giants, John Maynard Keynes, the brilliant British economist, and Harry Dexter White, the equally formidable American representative. Keynes, representing a war-weary Britain, proposed a revolutionary idea, a global currency called the bankdoor, managed by an international clearing union. His vision was a balanced system, preventing any single nation from dominating. But White, with the full backing of America's burgeoning economic power, had a different plan. The US dollar would be pegged to gold, and other currencies would be pegged to the dollar. This would effectively make the dollar the world's reserve currency, giving the United States unprecedented financial leverage. The negotiations were intense, a clash of titans where intellectual arguments met raw economic power. Keynes, despite his brilliance, was fighting a losing battle. Britain was broke, desperate for American loans to rebuild. White, on the other hand, held all the cards. In the end, White outmaneuvered Keynes. The Bretton Woods Agreement established the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and the World Bank, with the US dollar firmly at the center of the global financial system. This was the economic foundation of the new American empire, a subtle yet profound shift that gave the US immense power over global trade and finance. Long before Bretton Woods, a seemingly innocuous deal laid the groundwork for America's global military presence, mirroring the very mechanism that had sustained the British Empire for centuries. In 1940, with Britain standing alone against Nazi Germany, the United States struck a deal. 50 WWI-era destroyers for 99-year leases on naval and air bases in the Atlantic and Caribbean. This wasn't just a wartime expedient, it was a strategic masterstroke. The British Empire had maintained its vast global reach through a network of naval bases, coaling stations, and strategic outposts. These allowed its navy to project power and protect trade routes across the globe. The Destroyers for Bases Agreement was America's first significant step in acquiring its own global military footprint, a precursor to the extensive network we see today. While the British Empire at its peak had military installations in approximately 35 countries, the United States currently maintains around 750 to 800 military bases in over 80 countries. This vast network allows the US to project power and influence across every continent, a scale of military presence that even the British Empire never achieved. If Bretton Woods marked the economic transfer of power and the Destroyers for Bases deal the military groundwork, then the Suez Crisis of 1956 was the definitive moment the world realized Britain was no longer a superpower, and America was. The drama unfolded when Egyptian President Gamal Abdel Nasser nationalized the Suez Canal, a vital waterway controlled by British and French interests. Britain, France, and Israel, seeing this as a direct threat to their imperial prerogatives, secretly conspired to invade Egypt and reclaim the canal. But there was a problem. They hadn't consulted the new global hegemon. President Dwight D. Eisenhower was furious. He saw the invasion as a colonial relic, a dangerous distraction that threatened to push Arab nations into the Soviet orbit during the height of the Cold War. What followed was a stunning display of American power, not through military might, but through financial leverage. Eisenhower delivered a chilling ultimatum to British Prime Minister Anthony Eden. The US threatened to crash the British pound by selling off its vast holdings of British government bonds. This was a financial weapon of mass destruction, capable of bankrupting Britain and collapsing its economy. Faced with this devastating threat, and without American support, Britain was forced to back down in humiliation. Eden resigned shortly after, his political career shattered. The Suez Crisis was a stark demonstration that the United States was now the undisputed leader of the Western world, dictating terms even to its closest allies and marking the true end of the British Empire's global dominance. Unlike the British Empire, which relied on direct territorial control and colonial administration, America's hegemony operates differently. It's an invisible empire, less about owning land and more about controlling the systems that govern the modern world. This subtle yet pervasive influence is exercised through several key mechanisms. First and foremost is the US dollar. Its status as the global reserve currency gives the United States immense financial power. Most international trade, especially in critical commodities like oil, is conducted in dollars. This allows the US to impose sanctions, effectively weaponizing its currency to achieve foreign policy objectives, a power no other nation possesses to the same extent. The dollar is not just a currency, it's a tool of global governance. Secondly, America's vast network of military alliances and bases ensures its global reach. Organizations like NATO, along with numerous bilateral agreements, allow the US to project power and respond to crises anywhere in the world. This military presence, far exceeding that of any other nation, underpins its diplomatic and economic influence. Then there's cultural soft power. Hollywood, American music, technology giants, and educational institutions have global reach, shaping aspirations and influencing societies worldwide. This cultural penetration, often subtle, reinforces American values and norms, creating a receptive environment for its economic and political agenda. Finally, the international institutions established after World War II, the United Nations, the World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund, while ostensibly multilateral, often reflect and serve American interests. The US plays a dominant role in their funding, governance, and decision-making, ensuring that the global rules of the game are largely aligned with its strategic objectives. In essence, America's empire isn't defined by red lines on a map, but by the invisible threads of finance, military might, culture, and institutional influence that bind the world to its orbit. It's a system that, in many ways, is more resilient and adaptable than the territorial empires of the past. Narrator. If you're finding this deep dive into global power shifts fascinating, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We uncover the hidden forces shaping our world every week on Backdoor Economics. Don't miss out on understanding the true mechanics of global power. So, we've traced the remarkable journey from the decline of the British Empire to the rise of American hegemony. We've seen how economic necessity, strategic foresight, and decisive action at critical junctures allowed the United States to inherit and then redefine the concept of global power. From the financial battlegrounds of Bretton Woods to the geopolitical showdown at Suez, the transition was less about direct confrontation and more about a sophisticated, often ruthless, exercise of influence. But is this American hegemony sustainable? History teaches us that empires, no matter how powerful, eventually face challenges. Are we witnessing the early signs of new powers rising to challenge America's dominance, much as the US challenged Britain? The rise of China, the shifting alliances, and the increasing multipolarity of the global landscape all suggest that the future of this invisible empire is far from certain. The story of how America became the world's new British Empire is not just a historical account, it's a crucial lens through which to understand our present and anticipate our future. What lessons can we, as a global society, learn from the cyclical nature of empires? And what does the British experience tell us about America's future role in the world? Thank you for watching. For more in-depth analysis of the hidden forces shaping our world, subscribe to Backdoor Economics. We'll see you next time.